It seems like every discussion about culture war ends up back at abortion somehow. Recently, even an organization that I never thought would be involved in such nonsense was suddenly embroiled in controversy. The Komen Foundation, a well-known charity dedicated to breast cancer research, dangled a foot into the murky waters of the culture war and got pulled under before they could even say, whoops. Yes, that's the charity with the pink ribbons and the marketing department that would be the envy of most Fortune 500 companies, and a legal department that would even make Scientologists blush. They actually sue other charities for using anything related to For the Cure, even if the cause is completely unrelated. And they spent almost $1 million of donation money last year to do it. Karen Handel, their senior vice president for public policy until she was forced out last week, was a former candidate for governor in Georgia, and very publicly against abortion rights. She pushed for a narrowly tailored policy where Planned Parenthood specifically would no longer get any grants from the Komen Foundation for anything regarding women's health. When the news reached the media, the pro-choice side very loudly criticized Komen for getting involved in political issues, and they lost a lot of donors. Then, after collecting lots of donations from enthusiastic pro-lifers for a few days, they reversed their position, which then upset the pro-life side, so now neither side trusts them, and I don't blame them. This will be a costly lesson for Komen, as it should be. This tactic of targeted policy is something that a lot of lawmakers in red states are starting to use against Planned Parenthood and abortion in general. Since it doesn't seem that Roe v. Wade will be overturned anytime soon, they decided to regulate abortion out of existence in their state by putting up impossibly high barriers to abortion providers. Some states now require expensive and unnecessary medical procedures, like an ultrasound and other types of counseling, meant to shame women into not getting an abortion. Even worse, a law now making its way through the Kansas legislature would make it impossible to sue a doctor for malpractice if they withhold information from the patient, if the reason for withholding is to prevent a decision to abort the fetus. So if the fetus has birth defects, or the woman's health is damaged, unless the woman actually dies, there's no recourse. And will the state pay the medical costs for babies born with terrible birth defects because of this? Nope. Despite the ever-decreasing number of voters that say abortion is the top issue at the ballot box every year, the fights are getting increasingly ugly. It seems these days that the pro-life side has been more comfortable with throwing around terms like baby killer and murderer. Bill O'Reilly said Tiller the baby killer so many times on his show that a pro-life nut went to Tiller's church a couple years ago and killed him during a service with a gunshot to the head, just because he performed abortions. Whether it was O'Reilly he took the tip from or not, there are plenty of deranged animals sympathetic to violence as the solution. Now there's even a website called abortiondoc.org, where you can get the addresses of abortion doctors around the country, and lots of personal information. One look at the rhetoric on that site makes it easy to predict one thing. Unfortunately, there will be more bloodshed. Imagine doing all that work to get through all that school to be a doctor. You marry, have kids, and then someone who disagrees with judges and politicians who decided that one controversial procedure you perform is legal now decides that you have to die for it, and your family has to be devastated. Anytime pro-lifers decide to talk about murdering babies to add fuel to that fire, I think it's time to call them out on it. Point out that maybe we should start calling the Right to Life movement the women's abuse movement. After all, even when a woman makes the decision that they don't want to reproduce, they are forcing their will on her. And that goes double for those that are against a rape exception, because then she can't even be sure that she can prevent pregnancy by choosing not to have sex, which is a popular argument made by Christian Sharia advocates like Rick Santorum. People that abuse women should go to jail, right, Rick? We all started as a fetus, before that we were gametes, and before that we were just a twinkle in our daddy's eyes. I was actually a very early stage fetus when Roe v. Wade was decided, so my mother definitely had the right to abort me, and I'm glad she had that right, because it means she lived in a country that decided that nobody else has the right to decide for her whether she needs to reproduce or not. Not by accident, nor by criminal act. Nobody asked to be born, and there's no special magic when the sperm meets the egg that says we had to be born. For the same reason that killing a doctor is infinitely worse than having an abortion, so too is denying women a choice. There will be more that believe that violent rhetoric or even violent acts are the solution. So when we hear that kind of talk, let's never let it go unchallenged.